The KZ PR1 Pro are some of the most interesting IEMs that I've ever used. At first, I can't lie, I didn't like the sound at all, but after a good few hours of listening, they've become one of my favourites, and are ridiculously good value for money. The £65 Planar is here, and it's even better than you would imagine. Welcome to my review of the KZ Acoustics PR1 Pro IEMs. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, CSGO degenerate and IEM enthusiast. KZ Audio sent out these IEMs to review like they have in the past, but have not paid me to say anything good about their product. In fact, they don't get to see this before it goes out or anything like that. This is my honest thoughts on the PR1 Pros. I'd also like to point out that though I am really getting into IEMs at the moment, I'm by no means an audiophile, and I don't have the ability to scientifically test these things like many other publications do. I reviewed these mainly on the FIO K5 Pro audio amp with the standard dongles chucked in there for good measure, which I use on my smartphones. These are the standard review sources that I use for every other IEM, and I've been using a mixture of Spotify and my local FLAC library as well. So what makes the PR1 Pro interesting? Well, there was a PR1 IEM before this. That was more of a V-shaped taper with more bass and more up in the sparkly highs as well, where this is a little bit flatter. It's a single planar driver, something that moves inside as a single plane instead of a cone and magnet, and that leads to a different sound compared to a dynamic. Planars have typically been quite expensive to produce, and so having one at £65, one that's more refined, is quite a big deal, especially for consumers. We'll get back to the sound later on, but what you need to know is this is quite a fancy IEM for not a lot of money. This is accentuated by the really cool package of things that come with it. This is the first KZ IEM that I've used that comes with a braided cable. It's a really supple, light cable that terminates in a heavy duty feeling 3.5mm connector, so no balanced connector here. I wish all IEMs came with this cable. It's just really nice, and maybe the ability to change out the tip on the end. 3.5mm is not the end of the world though, especially at this price point. The cable is removable and is a QDC plug, which is like a 2-pin, but with this like shroud shield around it. Much safer in my opinion than a 2-pin, and way better than MMCX. This is a way nicer cable for £65 that came with the AS16 Pros that I had back in the day, which was much cheaper cable, and those IEMs were in the hundreds of pounds. So really like the cable, it's really nice. But not only that, this is the first KZ IEM that I've used that comes with foam tips out of the box. I didn't see any silicone ones in there, they were all foams, small, medium and large. The foams create a better seal in the ear, and actually because of the material, make a slight difference to the frequency response, especially when it comes to bass. Your mileage may vary if you change out the tips in any IEM. The PR1 Pro themselves are a metallized plastic hybrid shell that looks kind of classy with minimal branding. They stick out a fair amount from your ears, but I don't see this being a real issue unless you want to put a headset over the top or something like that. The shell feels substantial but is also relatively light, not overbearing, which is nice to see from a planar, especially at this price point. The sound is the best bit in my opinion. It's wide-ish, with lots of crunch in the high end while staying full and juicy with the bass and the mids. Whether you subscribe to Burn-In Theory or not, I did have to listen to these for 5 to 6 hours before they sounded good. This is what I mentioned at the start of the video. Now, is that burn-in? Is that me becoming used to the sound? I'm not sure, but right at the start, the highs were so sparkly, it was almost fatiguing. It was too much. But now that I listen to them, I actually quite enjoy it. Sure, they still sound very different to, let's say, the Soul Notes 7Hz Zeros or the Timeless AE. They feel a lot crunchier, the PR1 Pros, but at the same time, I really appreciate that. This is an IEM that I lean in to listen to the music as opposed to lean back. That's a term that I found from Darko Audio's videos, and it really does illustrate the point well. This is an IEM where it's more intense. You're there to specifically listen to the music and really feel the music, whereas there are IEMs out there that are more chill. You just lower the volume a little bit, sit there, chill, listen to your music. It's a very different experience. The PR1 Pros are intense. Not necessarily in a bad way. I actually found these to be really nice, and it's a sound that I think you will get used to, but it's still going to give you that experience every time you listen to them. It's not something that you necessarily get used to and you stop feeling that kind of way. They just chuck detail at you, so anyone who's listening to metal or a lot of rock or anything like that, you will possibly get fatigues over the course of a couple of hours. I listen to a lot of hip hop, a bit of rock in there, a little bit of metal. Yeah, it can get a little bit intense at times, but I also found at the same time, if you listen to strings or orchestral stuff, something that's grand and big, such as the Planet Earth 2 suite or the Arcane soundtrack, there's not an IEM that I've found that sound as good as these when it comes to just that full, detail-rich sound. For £65, it's certainly a unique experience. And now you might be thinking, right, that means that for gaming, these are fantastic because you can hear footsteps really well. Yes and no. I found the imaging not to be amazing, so you can't hear all around you like you can with some other IEMs, but at the same time, there is detail there, and if you're into that, these are a good option. Are they as good as, say, the 7Hz Zeros for gaming? I don't think so. I think these are a very intense music first IEM, and maybe you have a load of pairs of IEMs and you can pick between them. I'm lucky enough to kind of be in that position, but if it's your only IEM, this may be a bit much for your first. But if you're starting with the 7Hz Zeros or something like that, and you want to go into a more intense IEM, this is a fantastic option. Between the great cable, the fact it comes with foams, the fact it's a planar, so you get just a bigger sound overall, all for £65, you really cannot go wrong with these. There's loads of bass, there's loads of detail, the distinct separation in the audio, such as for instruments, is something I've never experienced before these, but just know that you are buying an intense product. I will leave links to everything in the video description. A massive shout out to KZ Audio for sending these things out. Really fun to listen to, and they will be staying in my little case that I carry around because they're just so interesting and unique compared to the other IEMs that I have laying around. I want to bid you all a happy new year. Sorry for the delay in content. I just kind of wanted a bit of time off over Christmas. I've got a really busy year coming up and I just need to get stuck in. So that's what we're doing. Hopefully you all had a fantastic Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you support, and a great new year as well, because this year we just need to kind of plod on with things. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, social medias, podcast, everything is in the description. I've been Ryan Thomas and I'll catch you later. Peace.